I wanted to, before I let you start the show, I wanted to issue a complaint, which is I cut my thumb yesterday on the foil of a bottle of wine, and it still hurts. And I ate some.
See, that's why. If you're really cool, that's why you drink Romanian wine, because they still do wax caps.
I had a Croatian wine last night, which was really nice.
It's not the orange stuff, is it?
No.
I find that's overrated.
So, on the basis of you cutting your thumb yesterday, Riley, does that mean you want a refund of your Patreon subscription? I assume that's what that means.
Well, no, it's more like I just want special treatment because I ate some chips for lunch. I had more than just chips for lunch, or crisps, as you would call them. And I had like there's a really annoyingly named sandwich shop that's like really, really good, but it's got a stupid name called Dom's Subs. And Milo just walked into the studio and is cackling. Yeah, he says he knows the place. It's like it's psycho good. Like it's amazing sandwiches. But every time I have to go, Dom Subs, fuck off. Anyway, I got a sandwich and a Diet Coke, and I went and I got a bag of crisps or chips, or I call them chips, you call them crisps. And then I reached in and I grabbed a handful of those as a compliment to the sandwich. But the cut that I received on my thumb, actually, from the foil.
You got the salt in the.
I got the salt in the cut. I mean, look, the wine was amazing. It was like a Medoc from about 7 years ago. Loved it. But
that does sound quite good.
The salt from the cut in my thumb ended up hurting a great deal. And so I want to get special treatment today.
We will not give you an apology because that implies that we're going to take ownership of the issue, but you will get special treatment.
Are we just gonna have the Rob and Riley fancy boy power hour tonight?
We could just have we could talk about fancy food until we drive everybody insane.
Oh yeah,
I will not allow that to happen.
I had a crazy lunch. I had the craziest lunch yesterday. It was fucking psycho.
Was it as good as the
I
seafood
saw
platter?
Your plates. I quite frankly, I'm not a fan of that plating style. If it's all up to me, but
yeah,
the food did look good.
No, it was really good. What's your preferred plating style?
A big pile.
I like the food to be on the plate.
But you can go so much further with it.
Well, that's news to me.
Yes.
If anyone on this call has a favorite plating style, I would like to know the plating style, please.
I just throw it on the floor and eat it like an animal.
Yeah, I've genuinely never heard the phrase plating style before today.
Well, this is every day. It's a school day, am I right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I used to do more crafted, small plate style, really refined. But I've returned more to having sharing bowls and plates with piled high, more natural. It feels better to me. It's
truly, Rob. Me and Jamie have lived such clearly different lives to you.
The thing is, I feel like Milo always points out that I'm every single store just sees me coming, and is just like, oh yes, this is a special way of eating that's getting very popular in the Michelin Guide now. Yeah, it's from the bin, and it's 100 pounds, and you just take what you want from the bin. And it's said to really connect you with the idea of both the chef's sort of childhood and his some chef's table bullshit. And I'm just like, yeah, cool. I just lap it up like it's the same thing with camping gear. I just walk into a shop and they'll be like, "Do you want this? Heavy tent? It weighs 5 kilograms and is hard to pack up, or do you want this
who the fuck buys a 5 kilo tent? I'm sorry, but that's not on.
Yeah.
You need to have at least under 2.5.
Yeah. So then they or this tent is 500 grams and it'll rip if you get a twig.
They use it on the space shuttle.
Yeah, it's about as useful as an F-35 in terms of weather resistance. And it costs about as much too. You want this, you piece of shit? And I'm like, I do.
It sounds like they're selling a fucking wrap of cling film to you, Jesus.
Yeah,
so it's artisanal cling film though.
Yeah, well, absolutely. That's just the thing, right? I'm very easy. I think that as someone whose sort of job is sort of seeing through marketing of productive activities. I'm a massive sucker for the marketing of like consumer goods.
Yeah. In your spare time, you just want to run around and clap like a seal.
Yeah,
it's just easier.
Exactly. Yeah.
You're the patrons listening to this special bonus episode. And, you know, it's the usual crew. James couldn't make it. James is unfortunately psychically injured because they tried to conceive of the mind of Dan Hodges. So, you know, rip to them.
Yeah, Dan Hodges is actually a psycher. Dan Hodges is a psycher.
Yes.
But
yes.
every time he posts, he rolls Perils of the Warp.
But is he sanctioned or unsanctioned?
He's definitely a sanctioned psycher. He's like, anytime they try to put him on a black ship, it just gets too stupid and crashes.
Oh, and yeah, as you can tell, we've got Riley on from Trash Future and the Botman podcast.
Hello.
How you doing, Riley?
Hi. It's great to be here on the first premium sode. I'm very, very excited to talk about all of the various tidbits, nuggets.
Plating styles.
Yeah, what the plating. I'm going to be bringing up plating styles throughout.
Yes,
I think you'll probably have quite a few actual opportunities for that. So, Rob, you have done another brain-breaking bit of research for this topic.
Yeah.
But before we get into the main topic, we do have one little fun news nugget to get started, which I'm sure we'll all love.
Yeah, just as a warm up, because it's kind of like, I don't know. I messaged it to you earlier, David. I am in so many ways becoming the Joker. And then this particular one is it's good news for, I think, the climate. The second ever shipment of crude oil has been declared carbon neutral, and it's now for sale. So we now have carbon neutral fossil fuels. Everybody,
oh, good!
Congratulations!
Thank goodness. I was worried.
Yes,
I was worried that at some point, you know, we wouldn't invent a way to make oil carbon. Now, I'm assuming that this has been made carbon neutral in some, you know, meaningful way through the application of a scientific process and not just, you know, marketing, right?
I assume that the way they've done it is just by drawing the boundaries of the term carbon neutral to be as large as to go as far back in time as when all the dinosaurs got turned into oil.
What they did was they worked out like this oil would release so many like 1,000 tons of carbon in the atmosphere, and then they worked out like the average person's carbon footprint, and then killed that many children.
Yeah, in a way, actually, the Saudi Air Force is one of the most green.
Yeah, especially once you get this carbon neutral oil into them.
The certificates were from a company called the Intertech Group, written TEK. That's how the K means trustworthy.
As in William Shatner's Tech War.
Yes.
Are these the same people that created that fucking tank called the Kinetic with 2 Qs in it?
No. That's
no. You guys are getting it all wrong. This is the people who made MechWarrior. Jesus. Like, I didn't know that they were getting into, like, I don't know, like making like a carbon neutral version of Mad Cat, but cool.
Yeah, I mean, they were also responsible for the first shipment of crude oil that was also certified, and their other clients are giant supermarket chain, ConocoPhillips, another giant oil company, and Unilever. So they're got good clients. But the sting, as always with these things, is in the tail. This is from Reuters. The oil will be counted as carbon neutral for exploration, development, and scope 1 and 2 emissions, which is essentially the emissions you need to get the stuff out of the ground. But the major emissions caused by the oil's final use, i.e. the burning of it, or scope 3 emissions, are not included in the certificate.
Yeah, got us in the end.
Yeah, so is this, I assume this is like from North Sea, so yeah, it's from an oil rig. I don't know if you guys have ever seen
Norwegian oil.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys have ever seen an oil rig, but there is a big fuck-off pipe at one end that they just use to burn off loads of the natural gas that won't be transported. And I wonder if they've included that in the emissions, because turns out they burn a lot of that shit.
Well, not because gas isn't oil.
Well, the story did say that any residual emissions not fully covered by this very good certificate would be picked up with tree planting.
Oh.
So don't worry about it.
Okay, great. And I assume if you burn all the oil but keep planting a lot of trees, then it'll all just cancel itself out, right?
Yeah. Don't worry about it. It's fine.
This actually really reminds me of something that happens in Canada quite a bit, which is that, like, especially Newfoundland and Labrador and Alberta, and in fact the national government as well, have been pushing this idea called ethical oil for a long time, which is basically that, like, well, Canada is a sort of, liberal, human rights respecting country, million asterisks. And so
please ignore the big burial grounds of children.
Yes, please ignore those. And by buying oil by buying Canadian oil, this is basically marketing to the United States, which is the biggest customer of Canadian oil. But by getting Canadian oil, you are, like, doing harm reduction, basically, because you're not buying it from, like, the Saudis or, like, from Iran or whatever. And this is our version of, like, Breitbart, Rebel Media. The guy in charge of it, he wrote a book in 2010 about, like, ethical oil, and it's this idea that refuses to go away. And, like, even now, right, we have this, like, Newfoundland and Labrador is doing, like, a 90s style privatization neoliberalism austerity plan. They got the lady who privatized Royal Mail in to come and do Newfoundland and Labrador.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
Who is actually from...
at least professional advice.
Yeah.
That's good.
Who is actually from Newfoundland.
Oh,
so that's
my
another...
God.
Newfoundland and Labrador, rather. So that's another gift to the UK from Canada.
It's coming
So you're
home.
telling me that
It's
someone walked into the Royal
home.
Mail offices and proposed privatisation in a Newfoundland accent? Because that's deeply funny to me.
Gotta privatize it, by. So basically,
I mean, if there's one thing we've learned about ministers in this country, is that they are bewildered by anyone who sounds a bit funny. So I'm sure they did just walk straight in and go in some exotic accent of Newfoundland.
I was really hoping to hear the PIP Newfoundland and Labrador accent. Anyway, but the Newfoundland and Labrador is now doing this thing where they're like, we're going to fund our green energy transition. And, look, and with ethical oil, yeah. And by the way, we're going to turn Labrador into an open pit mine.
It's nice that they're going to twin Labrador with Alberta. That's quite nice of them, though. That's
So, yeah, but I guess what I'm sort of driving at, right, is that, like, you see these, like, rebrands of oil coming thick and fast at this point, and it's just so fucking paltry. Where it's like, no, well, we're still going to, release all the carbon into the atmosphere. We couldn't possibly do something that wasn't that. So what we are going to do, however, is try and allay your concerns about it. And once your concerns are allayed, we'll, of course, go back to doing
whatever the fuck we want to do.
Yeah, exactly. Doing the burning of the oil.
But the easiest way to allay concerns about climate catastrophes is just stick a big maple leaf on barrels of oil. That disarms me.
That always makes me feel better.
Yeah.
I mean, I genuinely, years ago, when I was living in Canada, I flew with a light plane over tar sands, like a big tar sands field. And I think that's the closest thing I've ever seen to hell.
Yeah,
like,
100%.
That was one of those things I've ever seen in my entire life.
Yeah, and on the quite beautiful landscape of Canada as well. It's a blight, but it's ethical, I guess, just like this, Norwegian operation.
Well, that's good.
Yeah. Because it's apparently it's fine because the oil platform itself is powered by hydro energy, so we're using hydro to power an oil platform.
And of course, that hydro energy couldn't possibly be used to power anything else. You got to get oil to power the
like
other
Bitcoin,
stuff.
something useful.
Yeah, that's great. I love it. The energy economics. It's really not depressing.
Rob, would you like to take us on to something much more positive and less depressing?
Yeah, so welcome for our first Patreon exclusive episode. I thought I'd introduce you to somebody you've probably never heard of before, but he is absolutely at the heart of what I think we can call the British establishment. He's got a large estate on an island. He likes to hang out with billionaires. He possibly dabbles in finance crime, and he's a good friend of Prince Andrew. Oh. So those are good criteria to start. But it's not that guy. It's somebody else. He's called David Rowland, nicknamed Spotty, and he is Prince Andrew's other friend, and that's who we'll be talking about today. So apart from the fact that this guy has led a vile but very interesting life, I think it's worthwhile to talk about him because I think it tells us a lot about how the UK establishment actually functions in daily practice and what it does.
It feels like being friends with Prince Andrew is just a fucking kiss of death, like for real.
I mean, he's got a whole host of people that are very interesting that will come up during this man's life story. But essentially, I'll give you a quick spoiler. The UK establishment as it exists today, certainly the financial establishment, doesn't exist to build anything up, create anything, or do any form of remote good. It is essentially about being totally a moral vampire with the right names and phone numbers in your possibly black address book. So let me tell you a bit more about David Spotty Rowland. The most important thing I want to set off at the outset is I want to give big credits to Harry Wilson and Gavin Finch over at Bloomberg. They did an initial story that I read, and much like the tanks thing, I went on a deep dive afterwards.
like a truffle pig after the most cursed truffle you could ever think of.
Yes. And I want to say up front that David Rowland is a good guy because he also has epigenetic memories of being working class. He's the son of a scrap metal merchant, which means that he is forever and after working class.
Yeah, it's like class was determined by what your closest relative in the 70s
scrap metal merchant isn't that far off being a binman, if you will. So
remember when the scrap metal was art.
Class distinctions were drawn up at the same time that council tax banding for housing in the UK was drawn up. Yes. So that's how we can know.
Well, let's start talking about housing then, because David Rowland leaves school at 16. In 1963, he buys his first house at the age of 18. He sells it, he flips it, he buys another house, and then over time he becomes a very big landlord through his company Fordham. The Fordham.
I like him already.
Yeah, but I mean, he must have worked very hard to assemble the £10 it would have taken to buy a house in 1963.
Oh, in 1963, it was the number of pounds that your age was. So for him, presumably £18.
Ooh, big spender.
Yeah.
It must have been one of those Berkeley Square townhouses.
Yeah, so by the age of 23, he is already a millionaire. I couldn't find much in the intervening years. He's just building up his business. But in 1987, he is the money behind the £8,000 takeover of Edinburgh Hibernian Football Club.
Buy a football club for £8,000?
Oh, I think that's
800,000.
800,000. The club eventually, after a couple of years, goes bankrupt, but not before the ownership and the management, including David Rowland, asked the fans to put thousands and thousands of pounds into the club to save it.
Yeah, I was going to say, did he do that thing where he just, got a load of debt, stuck it on the football club's bill, and then, asked the fans for money and then fucked off? Because that's what we're doing loads of these days. So,
well, he will do that later, but not in this specific case. I don't know, and I can't speak to whether or not he did or not.
So he is simply mismanaging a football club.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, simply mismanaging it into the ground.
Simple, honest mismanagement.
That's right.
Well, I should say he manages, but it's a bit more complicated than that because his UK interests for a very long time were controlled, and some of them still are, through a series of interlinked companies based in the Bahamas and Panama. Which were later moved into an increasingly complex series of family trusts based on Guernsey, the island of Guernsey, a major tax haven, where he also owns the biggest estate on the island called Haverland.
Okay, well, first of all, right, you're suggesting that having a complex web of shell companies and tax havens is somehow bad? But actually,
no, not at all.
What that really is doing is that's just like CrossFit for your money. You're doing muscle confusion. You're not letting it. You're training different parts of your balance sheet in order to ultimately get a lot more functional strength. And I think it just shows that you don't really understand fitness.
No, I do not. I do not. I am sitting here in my big tub of jelly. That is how I do podcasting. Anyway, the first bigger story that he gets into that I wanted to explore in a little bit of depth is in the 1980s. He buys the Bunker Hill and Smelting Complex, which is in Idaho, if I remember, or Ohio, one of the two, which is a deeply troubled former mine and metal smelter, which mostly has ceased to function, but has a big wallet full of money and a huge amount of outstanding environmental and social liabilities. The Bunker Hill mine and smelting complex emitted tons of lead in local communities, and in the 1970s, some of the children there had the highest lead levels ever recorded in children.
Is that ever recorded in the US or recorded like across the world? Because I dare say that Britain probably...
In the US, but given the US's industrial history, I mean, they might have rivaled the Soviet Union, fuck knows, but... there were very severe cancer clusters in children, a lot of medical stuff that I don't want to get into because it's just too horrible to discuss. So by the time he buys it, the mine and the smelter are actually closed, but there was still $170 million in bank and pension assets. Those were mainly to be used to cover the pensions and a big bill where money was pledged to clean up the environmental and health damage that the plant had caused over many years with the local communities.
So, free money.
And I dare say all that money was used on that, yeah?
Yeah, of course. Of course, first what he tries, which is what everybody does who takes over an old industrial plant, is he tried to take the former company registration over to Bermuda.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, that fails because the US government says, no, you can't do that.
Mm-hmm.
So when that fails, the company he took over, the parent company called Gulf Resources, under the management of David Rowland and a series of other directors, starts making extremely risky financial bets and buying a series of money-losing ventures originally owned by Mr. Rowland and his children. These include loss-making real estate operations in New Zealand and a bunch of other things. Allegedly, he also bought a yacht in Monaco with company money and expenses most of his existing lifestyle also on the company.
I've got to say, like, when it's like, oh yeah, he spent a bunch of money on like real estate ventures. It's like, that's how you manage to fuck up being a landlord.
I mean, it happens more often than you think.
Not often enough, though. Fuck.
I mean, whether or not those companies really losing money themselves, I can't work out. But the most important thing is he bought a lot of other companies with the 170 million in the bank that was pledged against the pension and environmental liabilities. Weirdly enough, 5 years after David Rowland buys Gulf Resource, the company declares bankruptcy and all the money for the cleanup and the pensions is gone. Poof. Mm-hmm. It's just, nobody knows where that went.
Pay no attention to the burlap sacks.
Yes, absolutely. I found this yacht. All right, I was just
by the railway.
Yeah, I found and fixed up this yacht.
I just happened to be in international waters, and there was a yacht just there.
The US government subsequently, the environmental agency subsequently sues Gulf Resources because they now don't have the money to pay for the cleanup. But the US government only manages to recover 18 million of the original 170. So well done. This means that the local pensioners of the Bunker Hill plant took very steep hits to their pensions, lost their lifetime health coverage, and US taxpayers in general end up paying tens of millions to Superfund to clean up the site. So that's, this is just the 1980s.
Yeah.
So
that's the price you pay for having sort of making sure that like the smartest, most innovative people end up, controlling where the sort of productive forces of society are directed. Right. I mean, this is all just part of efficient asset allocation.
Yeah, I mean,
which, by the way, is to my account in the Bahamas, where I will use it to efficiently purchase myself a yacht with a helicopter pad
and many bottles of San Pellegrino.
Mm-hmm. You can buy San Pellegrino in like a Sainsbury's. Like, it's not that fancy.
Well, the way you were going on about it, Riley.
In the 1990s, so after the Bunker Hill thing, he starts his own family office, which is essentially a structure so you can do investments on a huge scale, but without attracting too much regulatory attention. And in this time, he also starts what is, according to Bloomberg, a sort of shadow banking operation where he is available if you want to borrow money from him. You can absolutely do that.
I've got to be honest, I find it very hard to separate the concept of shadow banking from shadow boxing.
It's so, I mean, like, the thing is, right, like, a lot of the sort of what was keeping the American travel industry afloat was operations like this. So, if you're, I don't know, like Carnival Cruises, for example, a lot of the money that you're borrowing is actually coming from private equity funds, family offices, things like this that are charging, ludicrous interest rates. There's a whole sort of universe of like sort of exotic one-off credit products that are created by these by these organizations. The interest they charge is enormous, and the collateral they can demand is, the entire Carnival line of ships.
Yeah,
there's a really good odd lot about.
In the case of the David Rowland family office, the interest rate, according to Bloomberg, could be up to 10%.
Jesus.
And the collateral could be 2 to 3 times worth the loan. But the people who borrow from him are people, relatively speaking, I'm guessing this, I don't know this, but are usually in the higher levels of society who cannot be seen to take out real loans because those would get recorded on the books, and then questions might be asked.
Or also it's just like, if something is too risky for a bank to issue you the credit product, if it's too risky or too niche, that's another like big reason that like family offices or private equity or the private equity funds, or whatever, would go ahead and give you like some kind of a junk bond level loan, right? It's for
which is historically never caused problems in the past.
Nope. It's always fine.
By way of total coincidence, I don't know quite when they meet, but this is where I want to bring Prince Andrew into the story, because what we do know is that they are definitely friends since 2005. I don't know how they met, but one of the first recorded encounters is when Prince Andrew goes to David Rowland's estate on Guernsey, which is called Haviland. Again, that's the largest private estate on the island. And he is there on hand to unveil a statue of David Rowland himself, sitting in a chair smoking a cigar. The statue is larger than the man himself in real life. David Rowland's quite a tiny guy.
I love to recreate that scene in Hot Fuzz where the guy is putting the same facial expression as the picture behind him.
Yeah. This is, by the way, not the only time that he goes to the Haviland estate. Prince Andrew stays there multiple times, and instead of staying at the official state residence on Guernsey, when people ask like, "Why are you staying with this guy instead of at the official residence?" Prince Andrew's response on at least one of these visits was, it was going to be a late night. So this is somewhere so they definitely meet each other. The statue was unveiled in 2005. The next thing is in 2009, when through his family office and a series of trusts, mainly the investment fund Blackfish Capital, which is...
Why do they always have evil names? What the fuck is up with that?
I don't know why, but the name is. But Blackfish Capital, controlled by David Rowland, buys the Luxembourg branch of Kaupting Bank, the Icelandic bank that fell over in the financial crash. Kaupting falls over with massive debts, and like all bank defaults, there's a good bank and a bad bank. The good bank is Bank Luxembourg, and that one is bought with all its future liabilities scrubbed by David Rowland through Blackfish Capital. It was quite cheap on the market. The best buyer before David Rowland and his sons turned up was the Libyan Sovereign Wealth Fund. This is when Gaddafi is still in charge. So, that's sort of the level we're at. So it's sold actually for not that much money. It only costs... I've seen various estimates, but it's between 43 and 60 million pounds to buy a bank with 1.3 billion worth of assets and also a 1.3 billion legacy bad bank. So, it's not a bad deal. You pay 43 million pounds and you get a Luxembourg-based bank in your pocket. Mm-hmm. Not a bad deal.
Yeah, that's more yachts.
Yeah, more yachts. I mean, the weird thing that I found is that you would think that once you take over a bank from the failed Icelandic bank Kaupting, that you would maybe clean house and ask some of the managers to what have you been doing and or pack your bags. But that doesn't happen. The staff and directors all stay in place, even though many of them were either implicated or directly connected with the collapse of the main Kaupting bank. I
was going to say, Iceland was one of the few places where they actually fucking prosecuted and jailed bankers, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm quite disappointed in this that Rowland's got it and it wasn't Gaddafi, because can you imagine how many tents in the desert that would have funded for photo shoots?
Oh, don't worry, this is not the last we will see of Colonel Gaddafi in this particular story. He'll be back.
That's a sentence you want to fucking hear, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
The main thing I want to note about as we go on with Kaupting Bank Luxembourg, which is rebranded to Bank Haveland, or should I say Bank Haveland, Banque. So that means it's trustworthy.
It's a fancy bank, yeah.
It's a fancy bank, and it's a private wealth management bank. So this is not for mere mortals like us on the podcast, except maybe Riley.
What was their preferred plating style?
Oh, they're definitely going like classic European in there, like in the Georges V.
Yeah, probably. I mean, overdone as George.
Oh, there's going to be so much edible gold leaf on there.
Yeah.
Tasteless.
So private wealth management banks are essentially banks for very wealthy people who not only manage your account, give you a credit card, but they can also put you in touch with people and make deals. This is kind of the important bit.
Ominous.
Now, at the same time he buys this bank, and also by some measure of coincidence, Prince Andrew requests a formal briefing on the UK's own plans to reclaim 2.3 billion worth of debt owed to the UK and UK citizens by these collapsed Icelandic banks. And then further, by magic coincidence, 2 hours after he receives the briefing from the Treasury under, I think, Alistair Darling at the time, Prince Andrew forwards this briefing, which of course is very helpful, to Jonathan Rowland. This is according to the Daily Mail.
Yeah, Prince Andrew needs to know the situation with the banks, because, if he doesn't know the situation with what's going on with the banks, then I don't need to tell you what would happen if his hand wasn't firmly on the tiller, guiding us through this the financial crash. It could have been much worse if Prince Andrew hadn't been kept informed so he could give his wise counsel and also perform the role we all know he performs. Of course, we don't even need to go into it.
Of course.
No. I mean, he's certainly present at the launch party of Bank Haveland. Although a few days afterwards, the new chairman of the bank quits his job, walks out, and never explains. But according to the Daily Mail, there's a rumor that he discovers evidence of market abuse and says, "I want nothing to do with it." Again, that's unconfirmed.
Yeah, I don't want anything to do with market abuse.
This is from the guys at Bloomberg, who said, if you are interested in dodgy money, the Rowlands and Bank Haveland were quite interested in you, and there would be very little limits to go who they would do business with. I'll give you some of their business clients a little bit later. But there is at least a great appearance that the Bank Haveland and the Rowland family isn't very opposed to dealing with people who could be described as dodgy, among whom are the president's wife and daughters of the President Aliyev of Azerbaijan, who's been in power for a very long time, an oddly long time even. There's photographic evidence with David Rowland flying in on Andrew's private jet to meet with Aliyev and his family. And the daughters of Aliyev eventually become his clients. So do a number of other people in his family and in the sort of Aliyev broader orbit, who are apparently so problematic for a lot of other banks that they are placed in a special surveillance category by the US banking networks, as well as several banks in Dubai, who said, no, we don't want anything to do with your money.
Wait, Dubai, the place where most of the crime happens.
Yes.
The basically, like, the place where if you're going to do money, where they basically have an office of money laundering.
Yes.
Even they were saying, "Oh, this is a bit much."
Yeah. Like, come on! Can you do a little bit more subtlety? Come on.
But don't worry, this is not the last thing we will hear about small principalities in the Arabian Gulf, because they will also be coming back later in the story. Another former client is Kola Aluko, a Nigerian oil magnate, who by the time he became a client of Bank Haveland was already under investigation for one of the greatest oil corruption scandals in Africa, for bribing the then sitting Nigerian oil minister. He becomes a client in 2015, according to Bloomberg, and then quite quickly gets a $25 million loan to buy a $15 million penthouse in Manhattan. Bloomberg alleges that this is part of a giant haul of hundreds of millions of dollars of corrupt profits from the oil fraud. Unfortunately, it doesn't end very well, because while the ink on the loan is still drying, the former minister is arrested by the authorities for fraud, and international warrants are issued for Kola Aluko, the Bank Haveland client, and he then unsurprisingly defaults on the loans when the US and Nigerian authorities start trying to arrest this guy. So that's another series of clients where I'm not sure whether or not they got them. But what is known, according to Bloomberg, is that in 2011, David Rowland and his son also take a trip to North Korea to pitch their services there.
Fucking...
Okay, well, stop making me like him.
There is at least also an exploration where I can't say whether or not any deals have been signed with Zimbabwe under Robert Mugabe in 2011, where he acts as an intermediary between the Qatari royal family. About fucking later.
You're just listing off person after person of like the worst people you can think of.
Well, I mean, speaking of people you really want to be in bed with, in 2010, David Cameron appoints David Rowland as the Tory party treasurer.
It's unclear if this is by text message, but we hope it is.
I'm not quite sure. I mean, what is known is that David Rowland pays £20,000 for a portrait of David Cameron at a Tory party fundraising auction. So that
come on!
Yeah, look, I mean, that is what beautiful art is. It's like the picture of Tony Soprano beside Pio Mai. You know, David Cameron tried to burn it, and Matt Hancock still hangs it in his like sad single man house.
You can't be too mad at a man who has his name emblemized on his chair.
So in 2010, David Rowland comes home. He repatriates his money. He becomes a full UK citizen again. This is by this time he's worth about £730 million. And returns from tax exile and immediately pumps 2.7 million quid into the Tory war chest for the 2010 David Cameron election. Just for reference, the average budget for the Tory party at that time is somewhere between 12 and 15 million pounds a year. So he, with one giving, gives 20 to 25% of the total Tory party budget just off the bat. And then weirdly enough, he's made Tory party treasurer.
Because he's got all the money. That makes sense.
Yeah. I mean,
he's really good at making the money. Look, I mean, we just have to thank the workers of Bunker Hill Mine and Smelter for the coalition government. You know?
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you for that efficient redistribution of resources, pensioners and dying children.
So how else would we have arrived at the fantastic policy choice of the fucking bedroom tax?
Yeah, I mean, you know, look, David Rowland can manage your money and that of other people very responsibly, and you can't, so give up your bedroom, you fuck. Anyway, so this, unfortunately, he doesn't last very long. He only lasts a couple of months as Tory party treasurer, still gives the Tories...
Is that until you run out of money, or is it something more...
No, more hilariously, but alleged by the Daily Mail and a couple of other papers, including The Guardian, because he becomes the new treasurer, makes a big enemy of previous Tory party treasurer and billionaire Lord Ashcroft, another tax exile, and also the former party treasurer. And consequently, because those two apparently and allegedly don't get along, there's a blizzard of negative coverage about David Rowland, specifically in the Daily Mail, some of which was the background for doing this episode. So thank you very much by way of allegedly Lord Ashcroft.
Words you will never hear on this podcast again.
That's why we have to lock this shit behind the paywall.
Yeah. Lord Ashcroft, you are the podcasting as practice freak of the week.
Yeah, move over, Willie Rennie.
Please, come and collect your edible arrangement from the PIP Acres in outside of Preston.
Or if you want something more upmarket, you can head over to Switzerland and Rob will sort you out.
But this is 2010. I have to say, is a very busy year for David Rowland, because this is also the year wherein he and some mates organize a series of what I won't say payoffs, but are debt settlements for Fergie, Sarah Ferguson, the previous wife of Prince Andrew, who is in somewhat of financial trouble because she felt that Weight Watchers US was not giving her due, so she cancels her sponsorship contract worth 1.25 million US dollar.
That's a really, really great negotiating tactic.
Yeah, isn't it just?
Yeah. Where are you going to find another Fergie? You'll never get people watching their weight without me.
So after cancelling her contract with Weight Watchers US, Fergie has a lot of trouble servicing her considerable...
I've got to say, that's a very Jamie move.
She has considerable trouble clearing up, or at least paying the interest on her £5 million worth of existing debt, and asks Prince Andrew, her former husband, to step in and help out. Andrew and his friends do, very generously. David Rowland pays off about £40,000 worth of Fergie's debts. 4 months later, by total coincidence, he gets a private invitation to join Prince Andrew at Balmoral. He meets the Queens and has lunch with Prince Charles. This is according to the Daily Mail. So don't worry, it's perfectly normal. Another perfectly normal guy who's also around at this time and also pays off £15,000 worth of Fergie's debt is another guy you may have heard of, who is Prince Andrew's other friend, Jeffrey Epstein.
That guy just keeps popping up all over the place, huh?
Yeah. He gets around, doesn't he?
Yeah.
I mean, look, if you're a friend to billionaires, you're a friend to billionaires, and your good deed should be noted, and I think that's important to note for everybody.
Don't make us say thank you, Jeffrey Epstein.
You do not, under any circumstance, got to hand it to, etc., etc.
You know what it is? Jeffrey Epstein is a bit like one of those radiation cats, but just like for the worst people in the world.
But all of this, so including the bailout of Fergie and the whole lifestyle, leads to an interesting question, which is sort of the next part that I want to talk about, is Prince Andrew's official stated income is a pension of 20,000 quid a year from the Royal Navy, and from the Queen's privy purse gets £249,000 to maintain his private office and hire a secretary, etc., etc. Mm-hmm. But his lifestyle seems to be somewhat in excess of £270 a year, including a 7.5 million quid refurbishment of his home in Windsor Park, a 13 million quid ski chalet in Verbier, which is good skiing, as I think Riley knows.
Yep, it's pretty good, but
it's not the best.
No. I think he really missed a trick by not choosing Closters, in my opinion. But there we go.
It's all right. I mean, I think the powder is better in Engelberg, but that's neither here nor there.
That's right.
Anyway, and he also maintains a small fleet of cars, including Bentleys and some other things.
Love to have a fleet of cars when I'm not technically a business.
So we can only speculate on how Andrew gets the money to do all these things. We don't know. But according to Prince Andrew's friends, and by friends you just always should just read "It's him, but off the record." These are all just presents from his mum, from Elizabeth.
And thus from us, the taxpayer.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I hope you enjoy your fucking jet, you piece of shit. I hope you choke on it.
But I mean, according to Bloomberg, Prince Andrew also has a private credit card in the name of Andrew Inverness with Bank Haviland and therefore with David Rowland, and was completely at liberty to use at any time David Rowland's private jet.
Well, that's nice.
It is about this time that we know that Prince Andrew becomes an ambassador, quote unquote, to provide introductions for David Rowland to many of his very wealthy friends and royal families, the others that he knows around the world. I should stay very strongly up at the start of this segment. According to a spokesperson, none of the current or former clients of Bank Haviland have been introduced or referred to by Prince Andrew. Bank Haviland has never employed Prince Andrew, and Prince Andrew was never a paid advisor or ambassador for the bank.
Which is, in my opinion, tantamount to an admission that all of that is the absolute opposite of the truth.
Or it's one of these things where it's sort of so specific, right? Where it's like, no, he was never a paid advisor. And it's like, okay, well, wait, what was he then? Because he clearly, it's like you see this all the time again in like when you're looking at sort of companies that are sort of doing PR management. They'll do a big list of specific things that didn't happen, and then sort of hope that takes care of all of it. So you'd have to basically it's something that it's a tactic that can be let's say circumvented with the classic technique of the follow-up question.
Unfortunately not too many of those get asked. So as I said before, in 2005 he unveils the big statue of David Rowland. In 2008 he's present at Bank Haviland to open the private wealth management bank, and in 2012 he's there again when Bank Haviland.
I'm so excited for like 2100 or whatever when like there's a statue debate about like, you know, if we should take the statue of David Rowland down. Somehow Toby Young is still around, like you know, is sworn to defend the statue of David Rowland.
I mean, arguably, the crimes that this man may or may not have committed, allegedly or otherwise, probably aren't as bad as all of the slavers that we've still got hanging around, you know? So, on that basis, maybe Toby Young's got a single leg to stand on.
Yeah, so we're gonna keep his statue.
Well, I mean, we'll meet some people later on who are also allegedly involved, or at least whose countries have been remarkably known for modern-day slavery. So, you know, there's still chances.
Mm-hmm. The Disney Corporation.
So Andrew is on hand again when Bank Haviland buys out a small bank in Monaco and opens its branch office in Monaco, which is something that everybody does when you just want to be completely normal. Mm-hmm. It is also at this same time, in the same time period, that Andrew is also an official, so publicly sponsored trade ambassador for the United Kingdom. And he is there, essentially, he goes on flights for the Foreign Office, shakes hand with people like Aliyev, and then tries to get UK business set up with the deal. However, there's an odd number of times when David Rowland actually comes with him on the flights. Mm-hmm. And but that's just by sheer coincidence. You know, who don't you meet?
I wonder who else is on those flights.
On the other hand, Prince Andrew is quite an odd guy to bring with you.
I mean, he's just quite an odd guy. Full stop. Really.
Yeah. If you want to sell, you know, I don't know, like Rolls-Royce jet engines or whatever, I need like the dumbest guy of the most inbred family to come and oversee the transaction. We're gonna need like a guy just with a guy with a face like a Fiat Punto to just sit and stare at me with his mouth fully open while I, you know, get my kickback for buying, you know, however many Rolls-Royce jet engines.
Yeah,
and then I'm gonna red. Yeah, absolutely. This is what it's gonna. I want to meet the dumbest man and the most inbred family in the country, or I will not sign this, you know, $400 million contract.
You just can't trust a man who sweats, and that's why you get Prince Andrew in.
Wonderfully, in 2010, the former deputy head of mission in Bahrain, Simon Wilson, who hosted the Prince once upon a time, revealed that Prince Andrew was known throughout the Gulf embassies as HBH, standing for His Buffoon Highness.
Imagine getting dunked on by a fucking...
quote unquote, because of his childish obsession with doing the exact opposite of what had been agreed beforehand.
Jamie, are you listening?
But he is very good at opening doors that David Rowland then, by magic coincidence, does tend to step through.
He's like one of the best at opening doors. Like, you should see, like, he's not good at talking, thinking, negotiating, really any kind of sort of A-B reasoning. But so long as it has one of the sort of long handles that you can grab with your whole hand and isn't like a knob, he will open any door. It's very impressive, and we're all proud of him.
Yeah, I mean, and that's what you want for a trade ambassador for the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland.
You want a guy whose main thing is that he can really, if you give him a little while, he can figure out most doors.
Well, that is literally one of the things that the British press has gone crazy over before, was the way that Meghan Markle grabbed hold of a door handle on a car. So it would be...
Giles Corrin said you might as well have slammed it on my balls. I remember that. I remember that so clearly. I remember it like it happened yesterday, and I'll be thinking about that forever. He's like, you're gonna open your own car door. Well, I guess you might as well slam it on my balls then, Megan.
Oh well, if you insist, dude.
So the Daily Mail later on confirms that the Prince does allow the Rowlands not only to join him on several of these straight mission meetings, but it also allows them to shoehorn meetings into his official tours. So under cover of Prince Andrew's official tours, David Rowland also gets sit-downs with people that he meets. Among the people that he meets on these official tours are Saif Gaddafi, son of. He also meets Daddy, Colonel Gaddafi, and brings along David Rowland. This is in 2011, according to the Daily Mail. He also meets the son-in-law of then former Tunisian President Zine Ben Ali, who fell during the Arab Spring. Another guy he meets is the son-in-law of the president in Kazakhstan, who later, for totally unrelated reasons, buys Prince Andrew's former home, Sunning Hill Park, for more than £3 million over the asking price in 2007.
Nice. What a fucking blunt rotation that is.
Mm-hmm.
The Daily Mail and Bloomberg have an extremely interesting set of stories about a particular 2010 trade mission to China, where instead of David Rowland, his son Jonathan Rowland is in Prince Andrew's entourage and is not only just invited.
I would love to watch a version of Entourage about Prince Andrew.
Yes.
I'll turn the fucking Royal Palace into fucking Big Brother.
Yeah,
we got to get Andrew on the plane, man.
Yeah. That's okay. Perfect. Done. Pitch it.
According to the Daily Mail, not only is Jonathan Rowland accompanying Prince Andrew, but his secretary and the secretary of the Rowlands in Bank Haveland actually make sure that extra meetings that are requested by the Rowlands are inserted into the schedule with Chinese billionaires and people that, otherwise they wouldn't get an introduction with. The same set of emails reveal that Bank Haveland also has been building long-standing relationships with Abu Dhabi and Middle Eastern royal families in general, with whom Prince Andrew also meets, about which much more later. And David Rowland, or Jonathan Rowland, also gets a meeting with the King of Bahrain and the Saudi investment authority Sajia. Again, they are just there, just hanging out. It's cool. Mm-hmm. In total, over his lifetime of missions, Prince Andrew performs 616 trade engagements.
And he was essential on every one.
Exactly. Yeah. He opened all those doors. Otherwise, they would just be staring at each other through a window. That would just...
no good. It's and he did it all himself, and we're proud of him.
Yeah, exactly. We're all proud of him. He gets a very special star in his sticker book, and that's what we're all here for. That's what the UK is really all about.
Prince Andrew needs to have a play date with Matt Hancock. I think they'd have a good time. They could play Legos or whatever.
Yeah, probably sell out the entire NHS to Mongolian finance interests or something at the same time, but, swings and roundabouts. So, unfortunately, Prince Andrew's glorious career as a trade ambassador comes to a crashing halt formal halt, I should say, in 2011 after his friendship with Jeffrey Epstein is revealed. And later on during
you're saying that after that friendship with Jeffrey Epstein is revealed, he's sort of out of British public life forever, right? It doesn't take like multiple other scandals for him to even kind of go away?
Well, Riley, take a big sip of your glass of non-San Pellegrino water because
it's a Diet Coke.
You can't drink too much like sparkling water at the same time. It's no good. So, if you recall, maybe you don't. During the famous interview with Emily Maitlis was it last year or 2 years ago? When asked about his connections with Epstein, Prince Andrew says that Epstein provided a very useful entry into the billionaire world.
That is a very, very poor choice of words.
I'm just glad that he decided to clarify what kind of very useful entry it was.
Well, I mean, I would hate... this is just speculation on my part, but if you are this closely connected, formally or informally, with a private wealth managed bank with a history of doing business with some of the worst people in the world, then having someone like Epstein provide a very useful entry is something that, maybe not only Prince Andrew benefited from, possibly, who could say, also David Rowland Bank Avaland.
Also, just this is slightly sort of tangential, but like, what's the point of having a royal family if they also need help to get connections to like the global moneyed elite? What's the point? Why? What the whole point was like
tourism money, Riley. the tourism. No one goes to the Palace of Versailles. No one ever.
Well, speaking of tourism, unfortunately, by the time this UK trade ambassadorships comes to an end for Prince Andrew, Jonathan Rowland was already planning, either with or without Prince Andrew, a new business trip to Cameroon and Equatorial New Guinea to find new clients, another country where, everything's totally cool and normal.
Yeah, Equatorial Guinea, a country that, if you recall, has been previously visited by another, British idiot with a terrible school nickname, Mr. Mark Scratcher Thatcher.
Another cool guy.
Yeah. Well, he didn't technically visit, but close enough.
He planned a visit, though.
Yeah. Damn bird!
If only those damn geese hadn't gotten in the way. Anyway, so unfortunately, the Daily Mail later uncovers emails between David Rowland, Jonathan Rowland, and Prince Andrew, where Jonathan Rowland suggests that the relationship could continue, quote unquote, under the radar. To which Prince Andrew responds, "I like your thinking." So they're still friends. Don't worry about it.
Oh, what a fucking danger!
Mm-hmm.
My favorite bit is in this same email exchange is that Jonathan Rowland also apparently seriously suggests that as an alternative, Prince Andrew should lobby that the post of UK trade envoy is put up to a public democratic vote, and that he was certain that Prince Andrew would win that ballot.
Yeah, a charisma powerhouse, Prince Andrew. A man experienced on the campaign trail.
So it's just relaxed. Like Andrew, in the same series of email exchanges later, suggests that he could continue to act as an intermediary for Bank Haveland and the Rowlands without much accountability. So, don't worry about it. It's all cool and good. Because who needs accountability? Certainly not from the princes of the realm. I mean, they're cool and they're nice.
Yeah, and it's that they're completely essential, and also they have no actual power or authority. But
none whatsoever.
All of that all of the stuff that they do that they're not doing is totally essential, but they're not doing any of it, and it's nothing.
No.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's also why the Queen's consent procedure that we talked about, I think, last week or 2 weeks ago, is used to make sure that minorities don't get too big a role in the royal household. It's cool and normal and good. But don't worry, this whole series of events is not the end of the relationship between David Rowland and Prince Andrew.
Oh, thank God for that.
In 2018, he is invited not just to his daughter Eugenie's wedding, but he is in the fourth row from the back, has a front row seat, and is seated next to Kate Moss. He's 4 or 5 seats behind the royal couple. So the relationship, friendship, whatever it is, still fortunately ongoing. It is also later on, I can't work out the year on this, but David John and Jonathan Rowland, as well as Prince Andrew, begin a formal business, co-owned and established in the British Virgin Islands, which is, that's another cool place where normal people.
I assume it's just like a shop, right?
Yeah, it's a little tourist shop. They sell seashells with funny pictures on them.
Handy odds and ends.
No, not really. What they want to do is they start Inverness Asset Management. By the way, and by total coincidence, one of Prince Andrew's many titles is the Earl of Inverness, and he also had a credit card with Bank Haveland in the name of Andrew Inverness. But this is all coincidence, of course. But he and the Rowlands start a private offshore investment fund, pretty much only open to friends of and Prince Andrew and other ultra-high net worth individuals. And they promise high returns that are also tax-free. It's very chill and relaxed. This, again, according to the Daily Mail. And the business prospectus actually writes down the very long and successful relationship between David Rowland and His Royal Highness Prince Andrew. The minimum buy-in for this little vehicle is $1 million, and documents seen by Bloomberg claim that it managed at least hundreds of thousands of pounds, but it's incredibly difficult to know what it held and what it did and how much profit it made, because the British Virgin Island is a total black hole.
Oh, by the way, it doesn't have to be. As British overseas territory, the British government has it in its gift to make that not the case. But it is useful. But and as long as that's happening, right? Like any kind of taxation policy, any move to try to make the Tories or columnists that are friendly to them to make the party look more like it's concerned with the interests of everyday people, and we're trying to fight we're doing conservatively fighting wealth extraction or whatever with place and localism. The every day that they don't change the status of the British overseas territories with regards to their financial secrecy laws, which they can do, it's just a lie, basically. They
you can't be selling counterfeit jeans from the house, but you can do it from the garage adjoined to the house.
This is. I mean, the overseas territories of finance. I mean, it's just a fucking. It's not a scam, but it's certainly a place where money just disappears. I allegedly aided and abetted by entities like Bank Haveland and its many subsidiaries in Monaco and other places. This particular Inverness investment vehicle is wound up in 2019, but like I said, because of the secrecy laws, nobody can work out how much it held, what it held, who the clients were, whether or not anything happened, whether or not it's just a bust. The only thing that we do know is that the split in ownership was 60% to the Rowlands and 40% personally to Prince Andrew. This is also, he has a big chalet to look after with 13 million pounds in Verbier. So, we don't know. We can only infer certain connections and goings on, but we can't say for sure that there is an A and B relationship. Certainly not for legal reasons. This is, by the way, and now we get to a bit that does involve Prince Andrew, but is fucking hilarious. And I thought O'Reilly had to put it in because I thought you might get a kick out of this. In 2017, Bank Haveland becomes embroiled in a investments fund designed to destroy the Qatari rial and essentially crater its economy. This is according to Bloomberg and The Intercept. This is, if you remember, this is during the same blockade of the country organized by Saudi Arabia and a couple of other countries. Over, I can't remember why it started originally. And the go-between for this whole story between Bank Haveland and the Crown Prince of Abu Dhabi, Mohammed bin Zayed, the go-between is a former MI6 agent called Will Trix, which is an amazing name for an MI6 agent.
Name check on this guy, fucking hell.
That's why they tapped him on the shoulder. They were like, nominative determinism's at it again.
The Crown Prince of Abu Dhabi, bin Zayed, is often, and in internal company emails seen by Bloomberg and The Intercept, referred to as the boss inside Bank Haveland. The idea, as put forward in a PowerPoint seen by The Intercept, was a coordinated central bank attack by Abu Dhabi and other countries to deplete the the Qatari government's foreign exchange reserves and thereby crater the currency and destroy the Qatari economy as it stands. Through a series of various shenanigans, the fund proposed by Bank Haveland in this PowerPoint would house the majority of state debt, Qatari state debt owned by Abu Dhabi, and would then use a series of bond and credit derivative manipulations to create a non-existent market impression of a panic sale of the Qatari currency that would be big enough for the media to notice. Probably once it hits Bloomberg and other places, other people would sell and cause sort of a chain reaction. One of the title pieces of the PowerPoint created by Bank Haveland was "Control the yield curve, decide the future."
Yeah, I love Dune.
Would Prince Andrew be one of the big worm navigator things? I feel like he would be.
No, I think Prince Andrew is like a lesser Harkonnen.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Yes, 100%.
Yeah. Also, this is like the whole sort of like abortive war on sort of all but in reality war on Qatar was a very interesting little bit of sort of recent history, just because they because Qatar's like history in the region has always been like the go-between for everyone and everyone else. And so anytime they get a little bit too close to Iran, because they have to be kind of close with everyone, the Saudis just try and fuck with them.
The Saudis just roll up a newspaper and hit them on the snout.
Yeah, and it is... I mean, like, God, I mean, it's hard to feel a lot of sympathy with Qatar, though. This is very much a sort of a case of the two monkeys knife fighting and just me enjoying
it. So all of this is sort of with that PR drive, and all of it is designed to create first the impression of a run on the Qatari rial, and then an actual one, which would severely damage the economy. But the side effect, which I thought was amazing, and maybe like the real thing that was supposed to happen, was, if you remember, Qatar is still slated to hold the Football World Cup. And the ideal would be that if the Qatari rial plummets too much, it would make constructing the new stadiums and hiring like upper management very difficult, and thereby forcing Qatar to share the World Cup and its PR bounties with Saudi Arabia and other Gulf states. So maybe the actual plot was to steal the World Cup.
Yeah, maybe Qatar would then have to enslave people that work in fucking FIFA or some shit, rather than just the poor people that are doing all the actual construction.
Oh no, not Jeeps Vander crimes.
I've got to say though, as like someone who doesn't particularly care much about football, the one thing that has entertained me immensely in recent history was when all those guys got arrested out of that fucking hotel in Switzerland. That was highly entertaining.
Yes, the Bauer Olac Hotel is around the corner from me here in Zurich. It's a really nice hotel, actually. They do quite a good cup of coffee.
You fucking go up. Yeah, I'm sure it was a lovely hotel.
It's actually quite good. I don't care much for their plating style, but the food is pretty good.
I mean, if you're going to be arrested in a hotel,
yeah, get on the shore of the Zürichsee. It's very nice there. The water quality is good, actually. I went swimming there yesterday. Anyway, but that is neither here nor there. I should say, by the way, that there are genuine doubts when The Intercept and Bloomberg showed this PowerPoint to people who really know finance. You know, they probably showed it to Riley, whether or not this scheme could actually work in practice.
No scheme really ever actually works in practice. It's like, especially one sort of proposed in a PowerPoint. Like usually, what this is, it's like a lot of the time, right? When like this reminds me almost a little bit of like, remember Cambridge Analytica? And there was this whole thing, they're doing dark arts of data science or whatever. But like mostly they can't do much, right? You know, it's like, you know, they did we described targeted advertising, but we, you know, shone a flashlight under our chin while we do it. It's kind of the same. It's kind of the same thing here, right? Where they're trying to say, well, we know the financial dark arts. And it's like, no, the real marks here aren't the Qatari royals. It's whoever's watching the presentation. They're basically, I don't know, like this international supervillain version of a timeshare scam. Like, this is just not like maybe you could, but like, again, what are you gonna do? Like pay like some Macedonian teenagers to be like, the Qatari real sucks shit. Like, it is money, especially a bank that's like, I don't know, like Bank Haviland is, you know, it's like it's got some money, but like if you're trying to declare war on a currency, you need to be like a Goldman Sachs. You can't be like a European crimes bank. Yeah, you can't. It just doesn't work.
I mean, so this is all in the context of this broader assault on Qatar. It's not known whether or not this plan was actually put into effect. But according to Bloomberg, within weeks of the plan being sent to Will Trix, the former MI6 agent and my favorite name, the Qatari rial under pressure.
I mean, I've just got to say, like he with a name like that, he had two career paths. One was being a pro skateboarder, and the other one was this.
You're forgetting street magician.
Yeah,
a contact juggler, I think, was a thing they could have become. Anyway, so the yield after this plan is sent, but this is also during the actual blockade of Qatar, the rial does go into free fall, hits a record low. The bond does actually yield, so somebody is controlling the yield curve. ... And the credit derivatives also go through the roof. And the currency doesn't really recover until about a month after these PowerPoints are leaked to The Intercept. So I don't know, and I'm also, as you say, Riley, like supervillain schemes on PowerPoints don't work. But whether or not any of this was put into effect is currently.
I mean, if you want to think of like basically a lot of the ways that currencies go up and down in value are people buying the products that are made by the place, or are they engaging in commerce in the place, or are they purchasing debt instruments issued by the place? Because you need to go and get the money that the thing is denominated in, and then buy the thing you want to buy. So that's why, for example, you know, Canada's dollar is so closely tracks commodity prices, because a lot of those commodities are denominated in Canadian dollars. So you have to go buy Canadian dollars if you want to buy those commodities, and so you want people buying them. Buying the currency pushes it up. So if Saudi Arabia, if your only land border is with Saudi Arabia and you're basically a small beach country, and your main thing is money coming into and out, like the main service you sell is money coming into and out of you, and and commodities, then just the mere fact of being blockaded is going to cause your currency to get incredibly fucked up, because those transactions that are causing people to buy your currency are not happening, and people who hold your currency to do a lot of those transactions are probably going to change it for another currency and go elsewhere, right? Like, so this is I don't understand like what on earth like a couple of press releases could have done, on top of that quite like large set of material effect. Yeah,
no, me neither. I mean, I definitely don't want to say that A, this plan was put into effect, and B, even if it were, that Bank Haviland and its mates in Abu Dhabi could control the yield curve and therefore the future. I'm not saying that. I'm just the fact that this segment of the British population, and certainly of the establishment, this is what they seem to do with their time and with their money, and with their attention. It's just they're just doing schemes, and I know that's like one of the themes of Trash Futures season 3 or 4, whichever one you're on now. But like, we're just selling schemes to each other. That's what we're doing.
Oh yeah, it's scams all the way down.
I don't want to go on forever. I just want to give you some sort of end credit notes, like where are they now? Mm-hmm. For one, Prince Andrew, I think last year, said that he was going to go into another different business arrangement with a former investment banker from Coutts, the private bank Queen.
It's unfortunate that he's not going into fucking exile.
No, unfortunately, the guy that he was going to do business with before the whole thing was cancelled was also sacked by Coutts for sexual harassment, thus continuing a pattern of him being friends with people who have some difficulty keeping their hands to themselves. In 2018,
I mean, to be fair, Jeffrey Epstein being, even before he died, a convicted child trafficker, just having to dance around how fucking vile some of these people are because they've not had the temerity to die yet. It does irk me something, but literally friends with convicted paedophile Jeffrey Epstein.
Mm-hmm. Too good of a friend, if you recall. Too honorable.
Yeah, too honorable. In 2018, Bank Haveland is fined for the low price of 4 million euros for non-compliant with Luxembourg laws on money laundering and terrorism financing, and agrees to halt its international expansion plans. Now, a 4 million euro fine on a asset footprint of a couple billion is really nothing much, but, that's Luxembourg for you. Son Jonathan Rowland is no longer with Bank Haveland after suffering a stroke in 2013.
Oh, no.
Don't worry about it. Prince Andrew is back again, also back in 2018, to open a new joint venture, including Mubadala and Bank Haveland, called the Anglo-Gulf Trade Bank, which would be the world's first digital trade bank to create an online finance platform to facilitate commerce between the UK, Middle East, and Asia. Woohoo! So,
great. Yeah, another example of the word Anglo. Letting you know that something's going to be bad before you've heard the rest of it.
Unfortunately, right after the Anglo-Gulf Trade Bank and world's first digital platform launched, it pretty much face-planted because trade took a nosedive during Corona and is currently undergoing restructuring after the Emirati sovereign wealth fund Mubadala pulls out of the venture. So
you hate to see that.
You hate to see that.
It's a fucking great winner when a fucking Middle Eastern sovereign wealth fund pulls out from it. That's great.
Awesome. No, because they're usually very choosy investors. They don't just give a bunch of their money to any old shit so long as their friends are involved. Mubadala is a very curious one as well because it's like the stupid one of the Emirati
of the sovereign wealth funds.
Yeah, of the Emirati sovereign wealth funds. It is it's the dumber. It's the one that's more like moonshot tech companies or whatever. It's the dumb. It's the silly one, which I think is very, very funny.
They just want to have fun with it.
Yeah.
Maybe Matt Hancock can go to work for Mubadala after he's finally fucking released from service.
Well, I mean, it's also the most scandal plagued as well, because they were there's sort of their ties to 1MDB as well. Mubadala, quite a fund.
Oh man, I still want to do an episode on 1MDB because that's such a fucking interesting story as well.
Mm-hmm.
That's more scams on top of more scams as well. Yeah, anyway, in other sort of where are they now? In 2019, don't worry about it, the Qatari royal family does open an embassy in Zimbabwe because of its deepening trade ties between those two great nations. Zimbabwe, of course, having undergone the democratic revolt and is now being ruled by a guy whose nickname is the Crocodile, if memory serves. I think he was the former intelligence chief to Robert Mugabe, but I'm not 100% on that one.
Mm-hmm.
The Qataris are also still suing Bank Haveland, by the way, in London for this alleged financial attack provided by Bank Haveland. Fortunately, David Rowland is also still back. Their latest investment vehicle is a thing called Liwaton, which is registered in Abu Dhabi, always good. And they have just purchased the largest oil and natural gas products terminal in the Baltic region. And knowing that family's history with how they deal with former smelting plants and natural gas products and oil terminals, I'm excited to see what their pensioners and the unleaded children in the vicinity are about to undergo.
Mm-hmm. I love to get a little bit of structural adjustment, courtesy of some of the world's biggest scumbags who just will not fuck off.
No. Will also never be prosecuted and
no,
have anything done to them. And of course, you alluded to it just now, Riley, in the very famous Emily Maitlis interview, Andrew, commenting on his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein, said that he has a tendency to be too honorable, which I think is something that this story certainly bears out. And
I hate to have the character flaws of a Klingon.
Have you ever heard someone say something just such a stinking pile of shit that you're just like what does that even mean?
Mm-hmm.
And of course, at the end of the day, at least as far as I know at the time of this recording, Andrew is still refusing to sit down and with the FBI and answer questions about his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein, or indeed the famous photo with Virginia Roberts, who is also still on a quest for justice. This is kind of the story I wanted to tell, because I think it says really quite a lot about the establishment of the United Kingdom and what it does, not what we think it does, but what the grubby practice, what the day-to-day is, and what the,
straightforwardly, the day-to-day is gross abuse of power, and for what? Self-interest.
I think you'll find it was actually one of Chris Morris's greatest works.
I mean, just so a handful of absolute dickheads and nonces and alleged nonces can just make off with more money and buy another fucking chalet in a sort of B-level ski resort. And I think if we ever want to change the UK and make it like a fairer...
Wait, no, we don't want Change UK.
No, sorry, you said it. It's Change UK you want now.
Yeah, this is true. We are now a Change UK podcast. Chuka, come on the podcast.
Yeah.
Oh my god, that'd be so good. Chuka, come on the podcast. We know you're a subscriber. I
want to talk to Joan Ryan about the "it's in your hands" thing. I think about that all the time.
So I mean, if we want to make it like this country any way better or anything, we just have to reckon with guys like David Rowland and his brood of large sons, because they're in there like a fucking deer tick, and they won't leave, and nothing will change unless we actually make that happen, unless we fucking throw these people out the door. Apart from many of the obvious and alleged crimes and abuses that we've just talked about, I think guys like this were absolutely at the monetary or ideological core of the resistance to something like the Corbyn project, because any change in that direction could mean less influence for these people, or a reduced role in public life for the royal family, and therefore less opportunities for dullards like Prince Andrew. And I think these are absolutely the core of people we need to root out from the nest they hold. Like there's no magic, there's no glory, there's nothing special about these people. It's just crimes. It's just crimes and schemes and looting and making money by helping other people commit more alleged crimes. There's nothing there. There's no great goal, there's no great purpose, there's no reconstructed empire. There's just dead factories and children with lead poisoning and crime banks in Luxembourg and the British Virgin Islands and scams in the Middle East. This is the state of fucking modern Britain. This is what its purpose is. And all we've just done is give it a fucking fancy hat and a title.
Yeah, but at least we have the hat.
Yeah, the hat's nice.
Exactly.
What do you want to get rid of the hat? That's all we have now.
Well, since we've got a little bit of time here, I think I don't have comment or commentariat planned for this episode. But, because I didn't think we'd have time, we actually get through that quicker than I thought we would. But Jamie found us an article.
Oh, yeah. to look at the other side of Britain.
It's a nice little short article, and there's a comment at the end I need to read.
Yeah, this is fucking great.
It's from Lancs Live, so you get local paper website, fucking already gold. Families post-lockdown Pontins holiday ruined by guests smoking drugs everywhere you turned. A holidaymaker who visited Pontins in Southport claims parents were pissed up and her stepchildren were left scared.
Great. My son's crying. Thank you for danking up the place with all this skunk cannabis.
A family claimed their holiday to Pontins was ruined by pissed up parents and people smoking drugs everywhere you turned. Michelle Waddington visited the company's holiday park in Southport for a 3-night break with her partner Ian and his children from Friday, June 11th to Monday, June 14th. But she says her stepchildren were so scared by other holidaymakers' behaviour that they refused to leave her side.
Yeah, look,
Michelle,
they should look, when they reopen Berghain, this will stop happening. All right? You know?
Michelle from Staffordshire said that kids were running wild until the early hours of the morning and that there were guests openly using drugs. You're right.
What is Berghain but a creche for like adult children?
What is Berghain but the German Pontins, is what I would ask.
In my opinion, yeah. Anyway, this this very scary man named Rodhad came on and wouldn't stop. It sounded like he was beating me about the head, and people were enjoying this music for some reason. They were shuffling back and forth in a way that I found most disconcerting.
It would be amazing if you took an
Echo.
11-year-old to Berghain, though. Like, I'm not going to lie.
Get a pair of headphones on them, or like ear protectors, and you get to go.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Like, start your kids. Look, that's the thing, right? This is just kids being cool. And Britain, like, has a long history of hating its children and not wanting them to, like, be, have the best, exist or have, like, an unforgettable summer. Like, it sounds like what happened is these people wandered into the middle of a snobs and slobs comedy, and were sort of, caught, and were caught up in the sort of fun and games portion of the script that comes towards the end of the end of the second act.
Parents were fucked up. No, sorry, fuck. That's not what she said.
Yo!
Oh, dude, he swears on the podcast. Oh no!
The parents were all listening to Lil White and then drink driving on purpose.
Oh, the asterisks are fucking me up here. Parents were pissed up. No masks were being worn. Bottles of spirits were being brought into the park and drank in the entertainment area on clear show.
Well, at least they weren't having the bottles pelted at them.
The door guard didn't have a badge and refused to deal with the weed. He said it wasn't his job. So I asked, "What is your job then?" To which he replied, "Clearly a better job than you, because I don't have my holidays in Pontins."
Oh my goodness!
Door guard, come on the podcast.
Yeah, door guard and Chukaramuna. We'll do them in one episode. That'd be fucking amazing.
I don't like the lefty. Like, I don't really like debate YouTubers or whatever. But I would listen to that debate.
Yes. It was supposed to be a breakaway after both me and my partner both working through all the lockdown period and not having much family time. There were big groups of teenagers walking around with alcohol, which became quite intimidating for my stepchildren, and they refused to leave my side. I put a complaint in at reception before we left, but I haven't heard anything back yet.
I just want to say, I love this, like, quintessentially English thing of, like, being middle-aged and just intimidated by youths, hoodies, where, a big group of teenagers, which to my mind could mean anything from like 3 to like 20.
Should have given them more hugs, shouldn't you?
I just love that she complains that during the lockdown she had to work and didn't get any family time, and then a complaint about the holidays that the kids wouldn't fuck off and leave her alone.
Look, Mommy just wants to go lie in the piss trough in Pontins, and it's after the kid.
Oh, Michelle said that she still thinks Southport is a lovely place, however something must be done because the seaside town is being let down by Pontins. The Echo approached Pontins owner Britannia has been approached for comment.
Too many people having good time, ruining my fancy trip to the country club where I'm taking my boss for dinner to try to impress him. But have Pontins put on double secret probation.
Well, that was the article, right? But wait until you get this comment. This comment is the most comment that I have ever fucking read.
Yeah, before you read that, by the way, I must say that like when English people say something must be done, that's just a bone-chilling phrase.
It really is.
That never means anything good.
She definitely intends for everyone involved to be like machine gunned, like in The Great Escape.
Yeah.
Like David Blunkett.
Yes. Yeah, it's the something must be done. That's not good. What is to be done? That's good. So the comment, right? The most comment I have ever fucking read in my life.
The apotheosis of comment content.
Yes.
We at this podcast are connoisseurs of comment and commentariat, and this is a fucking... This is
banger. It's a fucking banger of a comment.
This has the most premium plating of any comment I've ever seen.
I'm listening.
Pissed up and smoking weed everywhere. Sounds like any town centre across the land on a weekend night. It's also a fact these days that people who choose these budget holidays are predominantly from sectors of society that have not been educated in etiquette and just basic manners.
These people have never, ever seen someone who went to public school. Absolutely. This is what you were describing. Is you were describing people who went to public school who just like to sort of get pissed up and smoke weed wherever they go. This is just Streetonians.
Well, I mean,
yes.
To be fair, I don't think much of the plating at Pontins either. So,
unfortunately,
what do you mean it only comes in a paper cup?
Unfortunately, this sector of our society seems to be the ones who procreate more freely than the rest of us.
Oh, we've come
Of
back
course.
around to the idiocracy thing. That's fun.
Yes.
That's fun.
Of course, the irony is that whilst we try to live good lives, living within our means, we also, through our taxes and hard work, fund the pissed up weed smokers with their benefits. The police are intervening less and less, preferring to take the knee while watching all this go on in front of them. Even more ironic, the acronym PC has two meanings these days, but they are virtually the same thing.
Yo, it's just spitting hot fire right there. That's a comment from a street philosopher. That's so cool. I love seeing all of it distilled in one.
yeah, it's so
That's
powerful.
awesome.
Wait.
That's so good.
For the little cherry on the top, there's no hope for decent people anymore.
Yep, there's not. Sorry.
No, there never was.
It's beautiful. It's like Brendan O'Neill took a day off and decided he would go in the comment section instead.
Yeah,
The thing is, the guy's called the name of this person who's commented is So Handy Andy, which to my mind means he's a small business tyrant.
Probably, yeah, yeah.
To my mind, that means he's a sex pest.
I mean, I leave it to the listener to decide.
Oh, well, that's your replacement for comment or commentaria on this wonderful bonus episode. Oh, well, I guess that's all that's left to say then is, Riley, thank you very much for coming on.
Thanks for having me on, guys. It's always a delight to come hang out with you.
Yeah, the inaugural premium episode.
Yeah, I am honored to be primo guest numero uno.
Well, you should have been guest numero uno in the first place, remember, but we never managed to get it sorted out, so it's good to rectify that error now.
Absolutely. But yeah, it was a very, very interesting and infuriating to learn about all of these characters.
That's the exact combination we aim for.
Perfect. A wonderful balance, a well-plated podcast, in my opinion. Creative sauce placement, everything perfect. You're going to get your Michelin star in no time.
Oh, love to hear it. Well, folks, we will see you again on the regular episode next week. Look forward to that. Or in fact, no, actually, this week, because I've forgotten how time works. Yeah. We will see you in 2 days for the regular episode.
What even is time, I ask?
A mystery. Anyway, cheerio, folks.
Bye-bye. And thank you for being our Patreons and giving us money and stuff. Thank you.